Hello there, I'm Moldy, and today's video is going to be a mashup, almost a compilation of a load of little tasks that I want to get done, starting off with the world's easiest MOC, because my background's looking pretty cool and it might change a little bit by the end of the video. In fact, it's already changed so much since the last couple of videos, over the last couple of weeks, since the new year, and I will be going over what's different and why towards the end of the video. But down here behind me, I do have two dioramas, and it just looks like they're waiting to be parted out. So I want to incorporate them in my display a little bit more. And just before we get to the world's easiest diorama, one of those tasks will be returning my Mandalorians to my LED display, because as you can see just at the top row right about here, it's looking very, very empty without all those Mando helmets lined up, and I do think that looked really, really cool. However, since then I've also gone back, built a few more customs and added a few more Mandalorian minifigures to that display. So I think that's going to be my Mandoverse display. It's going to really help when the movie comes out. Any customs I want to make or any customs I've already made can also be added to that. But for that, we're going to have to build a second tier. So that's going to be something that we get done today. The other diorama behind me is the Tantive boarding, which I'm really, really proud of. And it looks really, really good. But I just don't have space to display entire dioramas. Well, I have space to display them, but there's just other ships I'd rather display than practically a glorified Lego set. If you would like to build this yourself, the instructions are on Rebrickable, and hopefully when this video goes out in 2 days time for me, I will have also turned this into an alternate build, and I'm going to try to upload instructions under the same file, so you only need to pay once. I've had a few requests for an alternate build because the base of this diorama is actually built using light bluish grey bricks on its side, but I'm sure there's enough plates to go under it. The rest of this is built mostly with pieces from the set. I mean, we do have two doors in this build, one behind Vader and one at the side here, and I'm pretty sure those door rails didn't come with the set, but I will modify this, turn this into an alt build, and have the instructions up on Rebrickable. But this isn't the only Tantive boarding diorama I actually have on display, because back here, I'll bring the whole thing. I also have 6 of these mini dioramas, which I made because they're easier to display and actually fit on this official Lego acrylic display, which is really handy. Each of these just pops out and is its own base. 8x16, I think they are. If I've got this funky little diorama with my Grievous Vader and this bigger diorama, I can just take a chunk of this exactly how it is with a few modifications dependent on how the bricks are laid out and put it on the 8x16 base. So that is going to be the easiest MOC I have ever made on this channel, and I know there are a ton of simple builds, but I think taking a part of a pre-existing MOC and putting it somewhere else, calling it a brand new MOC, is really on that fine line that we call creativity. But this whole brick does just fold off like so, and there are a ton of different slope elements and mainly the white ingots as well that I'll get from not only this mini diorama, but also if we're taking a section of this MOC, I've calculated it already, it will be these 2 panels of wall, so I can still get the door in. And whilst it does lose the nice mechanism with the fiery door at the end, I think having it open will make it look almost as big as this. And then I get all the little white ingots from down here, some of these slope pieces that I could really put together in a brand new MOC. And that's not to say I will never revisit this diorama. If I have the space to display dioramas and midi scale ships, this one's going to be the first I build. And actually, the Duel of the Fates diorama was a really, really good one as well, and that also had a Technic-based door. So how I'm going to do this, I really don't know. I know the door does come out and one of the hinges as well slides out pretty easy. So that's going to be the first thing I do, and then clearing off all the minifigures as well so I don't damage any, especially our little rebel friend using that 9-num torso. Not only is this going to need a very good dusting, but this is also only the first MOC we're building today. There are a few modifications to a handful of other ships. So I think I'm going to cut it there, build this diorama, and then show the final result. Well, I have to admit, this definitely took a bit longer than I wanted it to, and now my desk is an absolute mess, but I think this little diorama looks really, really cool and captures the scene of the Tantive boarding, mainly so when Vader's just going through all those rebels, which is why I've left out all of those stormtroopers. There are a total of 5, which I now have to make room for in my display. I've got a whole row of like 14 stormtroopers. They definitely need another row. But I really like how this looks, with one exception being the open door. It makes sense the door is open, that the rebels will have another hallway to go to, but there is an easy fix. The next diorama along has a similar thing with the Mandalorian Luke hallway scene diorama, and it's got that big empty gap, which I've just filled with a black bit of card, and I'll be honest, it actually really, really works for the scene. Rather than creating some fake hallway, which I could build out of Lego, take a photograph of, and line up to fit with the doorway, I can just cut this card in half, and for now, leave them both just black so they don't take away anything from the Lego in the front. Otherwise, I might as well just render the whole thing. Just before we put the Mandos on the LED display, I want to take another look at that Mandalorian diorama. Because as you can see to the right-hand side, we've got a wall that's actually removable, and I remember exactly why I did this. The Dark Trooper Attack Lego set was mostly just panels with stickers on. I mean, the whole lift mechanism was really cool. I keep saying I want to re-implement that into the actual miniature diorama itself, and I definitely think there's enough room for it. So if I have time today, we'll get working on that towards the end. But these stickers definitely don't need to be stickers. They could even have got away with just leaving the panels, and I'm happy they gave us some stickers to cover it, because it would have been a very boring set otherwise. However, I'm going to change these into snot bricks and wedges, specifically some I made last night. And I'm even going to go against the whole canon of the hallway, because the top panel here does not have any exposed wires or electronics, and personally, for a Lego set, I just think it's a little boring. So I have added some to my snot brick of a tile, just a little bit in black and red at the bottom. And when we connect them to the wall, we end up with this slightly more detailed. It's kind of the exact same as the stickers, just built with Lego bricks, but I think it's going to look a lot better on our display. I feel like I've said display like 100 times. Taking a look at our 6 miniature hallway scene dioramas, which I do believe every single one of these has had a bigger diorama with its own video up on the channel. If you just search for Master Moldy diorama, they're probably the 6 that will show up first, alongside that Duel of the Fates one, which was really, really popular. These are adding up quite nicely. We've got the floors of both levels all matching with each other, which was the very first thing I decided to do. I like the Tantive. I am quite happy with this bottom right one from the Mandalorian. Again, I might revisit this later on in the same video and add some sort of mechanism for the lift. Baylan Skoll's New Republic cruiser is looking really, really good with that old-fashioned style of Rebel troopers, even though one of them does have the updated 9-num torso. And then we've got the Kenobi Fortress Inquisitorius. I'd love to get that as a Lego set, similar to Yavin and similar to, I think it was Vader's castle that we got so many years back now. And I will at some point start work on a Jedi temple of the same style, so stay tuned for that. I'm currently planning just how big I can make it with the parts I have. I think these other 2 corner dioramas, the Fallen Order one is actually quite good compared to what I had to go off in the game, but this Republic Venator of a build definitely needs some improvement, so that's probably the next one on my radar. But that's all the dioramas done for today, unless I have some time to meddle with Luke's lift. Now, let's get the Mandalorians back on the display. Right now, out of the 5 plates that make up an entire row of that unit, I have just a little more than 5 minifigures. In fact, I have 5 different characters on display because all my other Mandalorians are elsewhere. These are all the ones from the Mandalorian diorama. We've also got a few that I displayed separately on these custom base plates that I designed in my last video. And I feel like, especially if these Imperials count, we've got to include other Mandalorian related figures like Cara Dune. We've got also Sabine Wren. She is a Mandalorian, and I just think the helmet will look cool along the others, though I do have 2 other Sabine Wren minifigures over with Hera and the gang in my other minifigure display. And I've also gone back and rebuilt the Cyclops dude. I forget his name, from, I think it was the start of season 2, the one that gives some information. I don't know, not really a relevant character, but a really fun one to make in Lego, especially when I've got a spare Yoda torso. All of these minifigures will need to go on these 4 plates, and actually I'm going to take Windu and Dooku off of this plate as well and use this for an entire row of Mandalorians, really prep myself for other customs I'm going to make, and then put these with the other Jedi like Barriss, Qui-Gon, and some of the customs I've made from Clone Wars. And whilst I'm putting all the Mandalorians back on their displays, I'd just like to take this time to plug my live streams, because every Saturday of 2025, with very, very few exceptions, we are going live building Lego Star Wars sets. At least most of the time we'll be building Lego Star Wars sets and talking about not just Lego, but the future of Star Wars. We've already spoken about movies and shows we want to announce this year. And if that interests you, go over to the live tab, check out. There's already a few VODs from the previous streams we've done this year. Ignore the ones from last year. They were very, very different. But feel free to watch those as well, just to get an idea. And by the time this video goes out, we will have already built the AT-ST, and hopefully tomorrow I can show off all of the improvements we talked about in Saturday's stream. Hopefully I can see more of you in the stream next Saturday, but don't worry if you can't make it, the streams are always going to be up for you to watch after the show. Now that might have only been about 10 minutes or so, but that felt like half an hour. But I'm so happy that the Mandalorians are all up on display and they look so cool next to each other. I have kind of hidden Moff Gideon and the Imperials behind the other Mandalorians. They might come back down here with the other Imperials. I just think they fit a little bit better, even though the Commandos are technically wearing Beskar armor, and so are the Praetorians, and so is Moff Gideon. I think they're all probably decked out in Mandalorian Beskar. I just think it works better with the Mandalorian helmet characters up there, and that was something I was thinking about the clone wall. When I put this together and we mixed up the colors and made it look a little bit better, I was talking about putting the Akbar Trooper on this wall. But I've realized if we do that, because the Akbar Trooper is a clone of Admiral Akbar from Rebuild the Galaxy, well, technically the Kaminoans are also clones because they clone themselves rather than reproducing elsewise. Snoke is also a clone, Palpatine's a clone, and suddenly this clone wall is looking less like clone troopers, which we're going for clones of Jango as opposed to just any sort of clone. Especially then because we'd have to include Luke from the comics and every other character that's been cloned in Star Wars. I'm not sure who hasn't. So this is the clone of Jango Fett wall. But should we include Jango Fett if I ever pick up Jango? This is just one of the many debates I constantly am arguing with myself of. I think Jango counts because he is the original Jango Fett, not a clone. The original clone, I suppose, would have been Boba Fett, but I'll be honest, if I ever get my hands on a Jango Fett, he's probably going in my Slave 1, which is a reskin of Boba's fire spray, but we definitely need a new Lego set sometime soon. I mean, the Slave 1's such an iconic ship, and especially because it shows up so much in Attack of the Clones, I just want more Attack of the Clones Lego. Like I said, this video is kind of all over the place, but something I've been wanting to do since I've made my video of modifying the Onyx Cinder is to replace all of the sticker tiles with other pieces. We've got a few printed pieces and a few combinations that work just as good as some of the stickers, because we did get a ton of stickers in that set. But I've got the opportunity to make a short on it, which I'll probably do before doing an updated video. It's way too soon. So I'm going to take the next couple of minutes, up to an hour, recording a few shorts, which is really something I'd like to do a little more often. And then we can get back to everything else that I want to get done. So I've got just a little bit more time now, about 25 minutes before I have to go for my appointment. So what I'm going to start doing is actually breaking down, I think it's run out of battery. That's a bit better. What I'm going to be doing is break down the rest of the tentative diorama that I've got in my hands, because there are so many of these white ingots that I'm sure I'm going to be using for future MOCs, and quite a few other pieces like 1x5 plates, which can be useful for very specific circumstances. And hopefully I'll be able to show you just before I leave all of the different elements that I've gained from shrinking the diorama into the mini diorama display. And I find whilst I'm breaking down Lego pieces, it's the best time to catch up on all of the podcasts that I listen to, because especially when it comes to breaking down sets that have quite a few repetitive parts, it's almost second nature for me to just be splitting them into piles whilst focusing entirely on something else. If you don't enjoy breaking down parts or putting away some of your Lego bricks after building a MOC or a set, I definitely recommend finding a podcast of something you're interested in, or perhaps something that you don't know too much about and would love to find out more, because it makes the time pass so quickly. And now that nearly all of the Tantive boarding diorama is broken down, the only thing I've got left is this slab of bricks, which honestly, I think it's just easier if I open the drawers that these are going into and just break them straight off into the drawer. So I'll get that done after editing, perhaps whilst waiting for this video to export. But we have so many of these white ingots. In fact, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 white ingots that now I can put to use elsewhere. And there's a few other like grey ones as well. That's the most important brick I think I've seen. There's a few of these snot bricks and brackets, but I have a ton of them in drawers behind me, and just getting a few more of those single 1x white bricks and slopes is really nice. I've got to find something that uses these smaller curved rounded slopes as well, because I have a drawer that's now filled with both white and tan versions of them. I do not have time to put all of this away. That will get done later, and when I return, I hope to continue this and at least work on that lift mechanism to round off the video. But if we do have time, and I'll do this off screen because you've watched enough time lapses for one video, I'm going to take the borders for the 3 dioramas I've broken down and the borders from 3 dioramas that I've had laying around anyway, and try to cover the outline of this 48x48 base plate, and then mills plate it out so it's more secure. As for what plates I'm going to use in the middle, I honestly have no idea. It will just be whatever plates I have the most of. And then we've got a base ready for our Jedi Temple MOC, which I think would look really cool. And also the depth of it allows us to build some stairs, some statues out the front. I'm really excited for getting to work on that. I'm sure it won't be long before we're taking that down, and I'm going to size up some of these smaller Star Destroyers and see if we could get most of it on the top of this unit. But that's going to be an update for a future video. First off, let's get working with the Jedi Temple, and then we'll see what we can do next. So I'm back after 3 hours, and I got to admit, most of that was actually lunch and travel time. But the video I've edited so far, and that was an extra bit of time, is over an hour long. So I've had to cut quite a few parts to keep it narrowed down. And right at the end of the video, I'll be taking a closer look at the 2 dioramas we've worked on, and also showing off the Mandalore displays. And then behind the scenes, doing a few other little bits like putting these clones back. But I just want to go over a few other things that I've done this morning. One of which being my new sticker tub. You might recall a video a while back of me getting rid of the stickers and putting them in a book. I'm still doing exactly that, and as far as I'm aware, the video still holds up, so I'll try to remember to link that in the end screen. But I've got a ton more stickers, not a ton, barely any compared to that bag I started off with in that video. That was quite some time ago, but it's slowly piling up, so I am going to go through and peel some of these stickers off and preserve them. Also, then I can use some of these pieces are pretty big, so I can use them in future MOCs. If you follow me over on Instagram, you'll probably also know that I built this tuk-tuk from Friends. It was one of the sets I got to stock my Bricklink store, and it comes with a really cute croissant, or I guess a Happy Son mascot, which is really cool. And I'm currently looking into trying to build a little Star Wars MOC out of the limited pieces here. So you might see that pop up on your screens at some point if I manage to do it, and I'll be putting the instructions up for free to members. Again, when I manage to build something out of it, which hopefully will be this weekend. Besides that, and other little figures that have been moved around and preparing for some of the builds, I've parted out the ATST. There's a few other sets now that have joined the ATST up here as well for future videos. So I'm trying to stay on top of that. And I think with everything else out the way, I'm going to put some of these pieces away and make sure the desk is clear so that we can get working on making the Luke lift actually spin, which is going to be really, really cool. And there's actually a really easy way to do it. All right, the tantive is cleared away, which can mean only one thing. I'm pretty sure this was the only thing I was planning to do today. And I didn't mention as well that the short will be up with the modifications to the Onyx Cinder, but I'm not going to show them off in this video because there's going to be a video in a few weeks' time with all the other little changes and tweaks I make to it along the road, because it would be nice to try and remove these axles on the side, but I've realized in removing them, the whole thing falls apart. Anyway, topic for another time. To get Luke's lift to spin is fairly easy to do. I think I'm kind of underselling it a little bit. It isn't as easy as I'm perhaps making it sound, but how we get it to spin is we put it back on one of those 4x4 round plates. We have a little turntable in the bottom. Make sure everything is told off, which I'll be honest, it pretty much is told off already. And then we use one of those plates on top with the holes in the middle going across the whole diorama. And we can get like an axle or something in there to enable it to spin, just making sure there wasn't already any axle connections in the top. And when I say this is going to be so easy, I've already done it. And just before I show off that brand new lift mechanism, I'm actually going to show you the wall that we put in. I can pop this off. It's less easy to do when it's not just a wall of panels, but you can see we've got that little exposed electrical panel on there just to make it a little more interesting. And that slots on just on the left side of this miniature diorama. But the best thing about this is the new rotating lift. And I guess it doesn't spin 360 because of Luke's lightsaber sticking out. But if it weren't for Luke's lightsaber, you could get this spinning a full 360 degrees. And it just adds that little play feature that I feel this set was missing. I've also switched up these bricks on the left-hand side, the right-hand side of the left, you know where I'm talking about, to bricks rather than panels because they had a little gap between the lift and the wall, which now is no longer present. The only gap there is at the top here, where you can see that there is some sort of mechanism. I'm unsure if I should add some sort of one of these Technic gear pieces just to show there is a mechanism and make it a bit easier to grip onto the lift. But for now, I like it just the way it is, and that could easily be covered up with like a 1x4 of a similar piece to the piece that I've used to actually tighten the axle in, which there is a small 2-length axle that goes the whole way through the top of the lift, and it's got one of those turntables I feel like I've been using in everything when it comes to Lego. So this is probably the last update to my Luke hallway scene. I don't really see myself doing anything different to this, but whilst we're down here, we might as well take a look at my mini tantive, maybe Vader boarding is a better way of calling this. Of course, the nearly all white Lego set has the worst exposure on the camera, but I think you can see it well enough. The back of it still looks like the original tantive boarding set. It does just have something about it that I really, really like. The random black and grey bricks. But this doorway on the right is where we are going to start. I've taken the little light plate, which is a stick out 1x2 from the original set. I really liked it above the door, so I've worked it into this door using a combination of brackets in a whole ton of different directions. There's only really brackets in 2 directions, but it feels like there are just so many because of the way they're connected. And then I have used a 1x1 round tile with the pin sticking out of it into a 1x1 stud with the pin hole for it to go into. And that's how we're supporting, as well as the 2 brackets connecting at the front. These dark bluish grey brackets connect with the tile on the front. 2 points of connection, make it a bit more secure than previously where there were no points of connection and it was just sort of floating there. This half of the door was just resting in the other diorama, so at least it is held in there's also a little step just in front because a block's height is quite a bit. It's like half of a Lego minifigure's leg. So they're going to need some help getting through that doorway. But besides that, the rest of it is pretty much copied from the diorama. And that goes with most of the rest. There's been a few different flip-ins holes around to get different heights. But a lot of it is just heavily inspired by that MOC, making it the easiest MOC I have built. We do have Vader force lifting one of the Rebel troopers, which isn't connected with the antenna translucent bar piece that I used previously. I've actually hidden the clips on the blaster, which enable the soldier to be held up, which is just so much of a cleaner look than using a translucent element. And we also have a custom Rebel friend using 9num's anniversary minifigure torso. The only 9num we've got so far, which is surprising. The anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, we definitely could have got 9 in a set. But then we also have the Rebel Trooper that we've only just got last year in the... It was the battle pack with the Stormtroopers, the Rebel Troopers. I remember the Stormtrooper ship because... I don't remember the Stormtrooper ship, but it's the one from Force Unleashed. And then we got the Rebel Speeder of some kind, which Lego did a while ago. I'm having a mind blank, but I've just got so much on my mind. I'm happy I remembered everything about this diorama. As for the Mandalorians, I kind of knocked all of them off this first plate when trying to get them. But I have moved Moff Gideon and the Praetorian Guards and all the other Imperial Commandos down to the Imperial section, which I think matches up quite nicely because now we've got not just this one and this one full of Mandalorians, but also this one, and this one. Well, they're not full of Mandalorians. I mean, none of these are even Mandalorians, but Mandoverse characters. So perhaps some of the Ahsoka, I might even be able to bring the Rebels crew up here for their appearances. Could fit on here as well. I only have 6 to 7 Mandos or characters on each of them. Most of them do have 7 or 6. I guess it's 50-50. Most of them actually do have 6. I think all of them have 6 characters. There's room for another 6 or 7 on the back. I'm not going to overlap them like my Luke Skywalker minifigures, for instance, because I don't think there's as many of these. And like I say, 5 different plates, 6 minifigures, maybe even 7. That's another 30 plus characters I can fit on these displays. So plenty of room for the expansion of the Mandoverse. Eventually, Skeleton Crew will move on here as well if I ever find something else to do with the Onyx Cinder. But for now, they're going to be displayed with the ship, and I'm actually really liking how that looks. So I wonder how many other of these Mandalorians will eventually make their way to a different display. But for now, each of these will be going back to my LED display, at least for the next couple of years of Mando movies and series. I've also recently, whilst either building, breaking down MOCs or anything, been sorting out some of the parts behind me, like my brackets, for instance. I've actually moved into a drawer. I was going to say of their own, but I've realized there's doors in here too, but it's mostly a drawer just filled with brackets. Let me know if you would like another sorting update because my pieces are so different from the last time I've made one. But the reason this video is a bit all over the place is because today I had smack bang in the middle a doctor's appointment for a medical scan. I am absolutely fine, but there wasn't originally meant to be a video coming out when this video did. The whole point was to not post, break my daily upload streak of making content and post a community post about staying healthy and looking after yourself. So if there's one thing you take from this video, I want you just to have a breather, deep breath in, deep breath out, look after yourself, make sure you are staying healthy, and there will be another video tomorrow. Hopefully going over all of the different improvements we made to the ATST in Saturday's stream, which was yesterday for you watching this video. But don't forget, this upcoming Saturday I will be going live, and I don't actually know what we'll be doing Saturday, but I've still got a TIE fighter to turn into a TIE interceptor, which I've been wanting to do for months. So I think it'll be a great opportunity to get that done. Check it out, head over to the live tab, see what we are going to be doing, and don't forget you can get YouTube to notify you, and as far as I've found, it's actually sending out the notifications. So thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Again, another long one, but we've got a lot more to do, especially if I'm going to start work on that Jedi Temple MOC. I have got the base plate here, ready with all the black parts for the border so that I can get a base down. And I think as soon as I start building some physical pieces, clipping them together, the Jedi Temple is going to be built in no time. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out, and may the bricks be with you always.